Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen here with Alex King. Dan Mangane is going to join us in about 10-15 minutes. Today is Thursday, August the 6th, 2020. It's 4 p.m. New York time, and wherever you are in the world, thanks for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And we're actually welcoming a fourth person today. We have a special guest visiting us. She and her staff, I'm not sure exactly who it was, but somebody at her end reached out to us and said, this is a show that would be perfect for me. And I looked at it and said, this is an interesting lady. She's had quite the career. So I don't really know a whole lot about what to promote for you, Michele, or what to talk about. So we'll let you do that. But Michele Blood is from down under, basically. She's and what time is it there anyway?
No, I'm actually in California at the moment.
Oh, you are in California. Oh, okay.
Yes.
So you're actually awake and alert. That's a good thing.
Yes.
But you're from down under, right?
Yes, I am.
You are. Yeah. So what? I got to ask you, in the middle of a pandemic, what are you doing in California?
Well, I live here. I've lived here for a long time.
Oh, you have? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you are a transplant then? Okay.
I'm a transplant. Yes.
Okay. Very good. So welcome to the program, and you have done so much that I don't even know where to begin to describe what you've done. So I'm just going to give you a minute or two to describe who is Michele Blood so that our listeners know who you are.
Okay. Well, I started out as a rock singer in Australia. I was a professional singer on TV since I was 5. And then my life took a new path back in 1989 from a near-fatal car accident. And because of that, I created music with affirmations because I was trying affirmations on their own without music and it wasn't working. And as a singer-songwriter, I thought, well, I can get healing in my body because I was in the hospital for months and months and months. And then that took on its own life. I ended up working with Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, Louise Hay, Stuart Wilde, Bob Proctor, all over the world, dropped my band and just started doing this full time. Now I've gone into higher states of consciousness and my Kundalini awakened after many years of meditation. And now I teach meditation, mysticism. I teach people how to just be positive and happy, how to shift their mind state and how to be healthy. And right now it's been really wonderful, all the experience that I've had because we're doing these really huge virtual live events and things are, I feel that what you're doing and what I'm doing is so required right now. And it feels wonderful to be on purpose and to be able to assist people in so many areas of their life, reinvent themselves and just find the joy out of, something that doesn't look joyful. So I've written over 80 books, audio programs. I had a TV show for years. Wow. I don't know. Videos. I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. I think I've been on the front cover of about 50 major magazines worldwide. Marie Claire, you name it, in the countries where I started getting quite well known for not just my affirmation music, but also I started getting hit records in Asia and all these different countries. So all of the things that I'd ever dreamt about having and happening in my life started happening through my shift of consciousness from this near-fatal car accident. So bam.
So Alex, you can see why I had heard you the intro better than me. I mean, how would you have done that interview? I mean, there's such a list there.
Yeah. I'm like, here you go.
We'll just turn the mic over. You just tell us.
Exactly. It's always better for the guests to tell it themselves anyway.
I think that's true. I think that's very true. But, you came out of, I guess it was a car accident. I gather you said it was an accident, but you weren't specific about that. And out of this really negative experience, you turned your life into a huge, huge positive, which is a theme that shows up a lot. A lot of people have similar kinds of stories where they went through something really horrific and it just became a springboard for amazing results afterward. But when you are in the middle of it, you don't really think that's going to happen, do you? That comes afterward.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
She's all choked up about it. I mean,
a little piece of dust just decided to enter my throat just as I was going to start speaking. No, yeah, my band were really killing it. We were really beginning to get like thousands of people, which is amazing because Australia is really small population for such a big country. And we were really starting to kill it. I had this fantastic band I put together. I was managing the band. I was the band lead singer, co-songwriter, the agents, the record labels, everything. We were just getting interest in international record labels. And then on our way home from a gig, someone would always accompany whichever truck company we'd hired to move all our huge equipment. And this particular, well, I won't say night, it was a 12-hour drive because the cities are far and few between in Australia. And so he hit a telephone pole, but as the passenger, I was crushed from all the musical equipment, and I was in the hospital for months and months and months and months. And I didn't feel depressed. I felt suicidal because the doctors were saying, if you do survive the next operation, you just definitely won't be able to do the things that you do. And I was like a crazy singer on stage, very entertaining, I think. Cartwheels, jumping on top of speakers,
This is a big shift.
Yeah, big shift. So many people were like, oh, Michelle's always so positive, and I know she's in agony physically, but really her depression is getting us more concerned than anything. So they started putting on, this is how long ago it was, 1989, cassettes for me to listen to, and I couldn't move to turn them off. So that's really bloody annoying when you're in this lower vibration and you hear these positive people going, yay, because you're not resonating, you're not in that same frequency. But one of those particular tapes really affected me, and I had like what I call a spiritual epiphany, a satori, when what happened was Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, was being spoken by this American man called Earl Nightingale.
Oh, yes. And
as a singer and a songwriter and a producer, I love the tone of someone's voice. So I could handle listening to him because he had this beautiful, rich baritone voice, speaking voice, Earl Nightingale. Mm-hmm. And so that was sort of soothing. And I wasn't really interested in any of the book except for one part, because why would a singer in the 80s, female singer from Australia in the 80s, be interested in American entrepreneurs in the 20s and 30s like Henry Ford? Who gives a
sure.
Yeah. But when he said that Napoleon Hill had healed his son, who was born with absolutely no hearing, through auto-suggestion, affirmation, by going into his little infant son's room every night and saying, you hear perfectly, you are a great person, you are positive, you are glowing with health, you're popular at school, you're very giving, and you hear perfectly. He did this for years.
Right.
The little boy ended up getting 30% of his hearing. He went on to become one of the leaders in really getting science to work on hearing aids. And I just thought something within me, I knew that was true. I just knew it. I said, okay, I'm going to do affirmations. So Napoleon Hill said an affirmation or auto-suggestion is something you say about yourself that hasn't happened yet, but you want to have happen. And you've got to emotionalize it for it to go into the treasury of your subconscious mind. And remember, he's talking back in the 20s when neuroscience had not yet proven that there was even a short-term memory or that things would fly out. He was speaking from his own experience and from interviewing hundreds and hundreds of successful people and listening to the way that they had their self.
Plus, I don't think there really was a neuroscience at that point. I mean, nothing by that name anyway. It was definitely in its infancy.
No, so him saying you've got to emotionalize it, otherwise it won't go into your subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind is where you're planting this new seed, and your mind will then manifest healing or whatever it is that you want to create into your experience. And so I did it for a couple of weeks in the hospital, and I made up a really good one. I am healed, because I totally wasn't. I know I am. Didn't think I was. I love myself. I am my friend. I didn't love myself. I was suicidal. So I thought, oh, great, I've got the perfect affirmation. This is bound to work. However, when you're in emotional pain and physical pain, of course, the doctor's coming in and you're doubting mind. So it never, ever went into my subconscious mind. I didn't even start feeling better, just in myself. I didn't feel happier. I wasn't looking at the positive at all. And so I left it. I just said, look, it's not going to work for me, because how can I emotionalize something when I'm in a hospital and people are saying, if you do walk again, you'll have a physical limp forever and this and that, and you can't do this, you won't be able to do that. And it was just insane. So after about a week, in the middle of the night in the hospital, I had this epiphany. Oh my God, Michele, you're a singer, songwriter. You've even written jingles for advertising agencies over the years, which I never tell my band members about, because that would have been totally uncool, but it was extra money. And so I said, I'll just write myself a jingle, because there weren't any. I actually asked my brother to go out and find affirmation music, and he said, there's tons of these so-called affirmations, people just speaking them, but there's no singing affirmations. So I had this little cassette player that I always had with me. So whenever I got a song idea, I would sing it down, because otherwise I wouldn't remember it. Mm-hmm. And so I just started singing. I am healed, I know I am. I love myself, I am my friend. Started singing it over and over and over again onto this little cassette. And to make a very long story short, what happened was I had miraculous healing. The doctors thought it was miraculous. My energy, everything was great. I went on to go into a little recording studio with a couple of band members and wrote and recorded more of these affirmation songs. One of the first ones was Magnet to Money, because our band never seemed to have enough money for all the equipment and everything. Mm-hmm. And that's been downloaded now, Alex and Dan, like over 3 million times worldwide. And,
fantastic.
And so I ended up writing about 400 songs and recording them. And each time I wanted to do it more and more professionally. So then journalists were coming and saying, hey, this Australian singer, she's had this healing through this music she's been writing. So I ended up getting a lot of press, TV interviews. And then because of that, promoters who promoted people like Deepak Chopra and Wayne Dyer and Bob Proctor said, we would like you to come and sing and just tell a little bit of your story and have everyone get up. We'll put all the lyrics up on the screen, the affirmation lyrics. We want you to sing. And they thought this will be a good way to bring in a younger audience that know me as well, rather than just an older, because apparently, it was like a 40 above, which I now know is very young, but at the time. And I didn't know who any of these people were. But they kept saying to me, this is amazing, especially Bob Proctor. He said, I didn't even want you to come and sing on my events, touring around Australia. He said, but the audience love it. He said, I remember every lyric. He said, it works so fast. And this is what I've been teaching for years, is auto-suggestion. And the fact that you got the idea from Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, that's how I started out. Mm-hmm. So he ended up having me tour all over the world. More and more people would come to different events. I ended up living overseas. I ended up running his business in Malaysia, ended up having hit records in many different languages. And that's how I ended up going deeper and deeper into mysticism, because once your vibration, your frequency has begun to speed up, you are more aware of the deeper significance of life and the purpose of life. So I was making so much money, never ever known how, I could go first class to Paris for the weekend when everyone in Malaysia were on break from some religious thing. They had so many religious holidays. I would just go into any beautiful top shop and buy whatever I wanted. Never had to look at how much it cost. I'd never had that experience. But then I had all of this stuff and all of these gigs, and I was getting more and more gigs and more recordings. And then I wanted more. I wanted to find the meaning of life.
Okay.
I didn't want it to be all about material stuff. So that's when I really, really began my search into deeper and deeper mysticism and meditation. Your turn.
Okay. Well, stopping part. Okay. Well, that's good. Actually, I'm curious about the difference between what happened when you tried first. You just tried, repeating some affirmations and you weren't getting anywhere. And then you tried singing them. And what occurs to me is I don't know. You're going to have to confirm or deny this. I suspect the difference is that when you were singing them, you felt differently about them. That the first time around you were in pain, you were probably in anger, you were in depression, you already said that. And then when you started to sing them, by singing them, you shifted your mood to, I'm not sure what, but I suspect your mood shifted and you started feeling differently about your situation just because you were singing them.
Well, the reason, well, of course, singing them does shift your mood, but the main thing that happened, because I did a lot of study with this later, and, you know, to really find out what was happening. And what was happening was the left side of the brain, the lyrics, the affirmations, they go into the left logical side. The music goes into the right side. Mm-hmm. You have a whole brain experience and you can't get the song out of your head. You don't have to emotionalize the affirmation. I couldn't emotionalize the affirmation, so my doubting mind kept stopping and saying, look, this is BS. This is not working. Whereas when you sing it, it goes straight into your subconscious mind, which is why advertising agencies spend billions a year on well-known pop songs to be created to go along with their product or make up their own jingle. That's why children remember their ABCs, because they sing them. Mm-hmm. So it's just a whole brain experience, and we end up finding out it works 300 times faster than just writing them down or saying them. Now, writing them down and saying them can still work if you can get yourself into an emotional state. But usually when people require an affirmation the most is when they're not in that state of vibration of belief, of faith. So that's why many, many people learnt about the secret and the law of attraction, even though the Buddha taught it 2,500 years ago. The Buddha said, you know, we are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. So it's not a secret.
It's a secret that's been a secret for a long time.
Yeah. So it was really, really fascinating. So, and Rhonda Byrne, who produced The Secret and wrote a couple of books, she had bought every product I ever brought out for years and years before The Secret came out. Mm-hmm. But so it was really, really quite fascinating how people started waking up to it. And I was really grateful that The Secret came out, because it assisted Bob Proctor, who I've got many books and products with, for him to become more well-known. So our products became more well-known, and it made people clearer. People weren't just thinking, oh, this is woohoo, this is ridiculous, it's just nonsense. People started really, from all walks of life, from doctors, from, you know, musicians, from kids, you know, they started, oh, I'm going to think positive thoughts. I'm going to manifest something in my life. And they get disappointed because they're doing it and they can't get into that state of consciousness where the doubting mind, whereas with the song, the doubting mind has no chance. It's dead in the water. It goes straight into your subconscious mind, whether you like the song or not.
It's an interesting point, and I had never really considered it that way, but you're right, that makes a lot of sense, that it would be a bypass, a way of bypassing all that monkey chatter that goes on and going directly to the subconscious mind. That's pretty cool.
Now I have a question.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, I would think you would think so, because it made you extremely successful. So if you didn't think so, I'd begin to question your sanity, actually.
Well, it healed my body.
And it healed your body, even more importantly. Yeah. How long did it take to heal, by the way?
4 months.
And you were laid up for how long before that?
5 months.
So you basically sped things up, too.
I was going to say, how long did they tell you it was going to take?
Well, they said I would never heal completely. I would never be able to wear my shoes. I would never be able to do this because of the back, because of the hip that was completely smashed, the pelvis was completely smashed, or the bone, anyway. So I started learning how to walk again in high shoes, because I'm 5 foot, and I was like, I'm going to have my high shoes on stage again. And okay, another miraculous thing happened, because I was told I'd have to wear these special shoes because of the back fracture. As I was learning to walk again. So I thought, bugger that, I'm going to just put the high shoes on. And what happened was, because I've been wearing high shoes since I was 6 months old, just kidding, but anyway, very young age.
7 anyway.
Yeah. Very high shoes, 6 to 7 inch heels. But anyway, my back was already in a certain curvature because of the high shoes.
Sure.
And so it actually helped heal my back, which the doctor was absolutely blown away. He said, "What are you doing coming in here with high heels?" He said, "You'll ruin your back. You'll never walk again." And I said, "Well, check it out."
What did you think of it, though? I mean, you're the one who went through it, and I mean, it's easy to look after the fact and either be shocked or, disapproving or disbelieving or whatever. But when you go through it, it's a different experience. What was it like going through it?
Going through it, it was really fascinating. It's a good question. I don't think anyone's actually asked me that before. I
try to ask unusual questions.
Yeah, I did not allow anyone or anything. I didn't tell anyone except for the band members what I was doing. Because, musicians are different. They're more out there. They're more open to magic and things happening. So I didn't tell my family, didn't tell my parents, didn't tell my sister or my brother. I didn't want anyone boo-hooing what I was doing. So I found that keeping it to myself until I had enough faith for me to absolutely know it. And why would they care anyway? All they care is, okay, this person we love is healed. That's cool. They don't need to know all the details or how it happened. Because when my father did find out, he didn't believe it. He said, "Oh, that's a coincidence." So I realized it's very, very important to not share my inner beliefs, my faith with people unless they come and ask me, "Hey, how did you do that? I require some assistance myself. Please let me know. Share how you did it so I can do it." So that's one of the things I noticed as I was healing was because it's so amazing because when you're going through something, you're feeling so positive and happy and grateful, you want to share it with everyone. And then you realize people don't want to hear this.
It's strange but true. And it makes a lot of sense. There are a lot of people who have learned the hard way that they want to keep their transitions, their spiritual development private. Because it's easy to get burned if you don't do that. So totally understand.
Yeah, you don't want to lose your faith before you have your faith.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly. And I have a question for you from one of our live stream listeners. Josie is saying, first of all, she says hello, and she says, "Are you familiar with the writings of Florence Scovel Shinn?" The reason she brings up Shinn is that Shinn said she suggested that rhyming affirmations stick in your head, which she said helped her. So. First of all, have you heard of Shinn?
No, I haven't heard of Shinn. Is she around now, or is it an older person? Or
she actually wrote just before Napoleon Hill. So her biggest book came out, I believe, in 1925. But she was writing a lot of the same kinds of stuff that Hill was writing around that same period of time.
Oh yeah.
And she's written. I think she wrote 2 or 3 books. I can't remember exactly how many there were, but she's got
a couple. Of course, that's what my affirmations are. They're rhymes because they're songs, they're melodies. So that's awesome. Now I would have loved to have known about her back then, but I guess now I do.
Yeah, there you go. And our friend Dan Mangana has arrived. We're glad you could make it, Daniel. How you doing?
Hey guys, I had a cool run over. The Zoom meeting got mixed up. But hey,
how's it going, mate?
Hey, how you doing?
Good, great.
Daniel basically lives in social media doing workshops and presentations and everything. I mean, I don't know when he takes time off, to be perfectly honest. But
I have plenty of time off, and now I have a firmly instituted shut-off time in the evening.
Ooh.
And in addition to my full day off. So I have plenty of downtime now.
All right. Very good.
Whereabouts in the UK are you from, Daniel?
I'm from East London.
Oh, East London. I've been to London so many times. I love the English.
Well, thank you.
No, I mean Bob's your uncle.
Sally's all right and everyone else is a cousin.
Well, because the English threw out all the people that stole loaves of bread and took them to paradise, to Australia, where I'm from.
Okay. See, it just goes to show it's all about your perspective.
Yeah,
that's exactly. All it is. That's great. So, getting back to your story then. So you went through this whole period of healing. You kept it fairly quiet, which I suspect was a bit of a challenge because you're pretty much a very extroverted person. I got that pretty early in this conversation. That must have been a little bit challenging, even beyond like you want to share it with somebody. It just must have been kind of tough.
Well, not really. I've
No?
never, no, because my family, until I started getting really well known and we had thousands of people coming to my gigs, my family just said, oh, she's a musician or something. They were never interested, never really supportive. Then all of a sudden when, then my brother's like, oh, can you sign up my friends to come backstage? Can we get free tickets? Blah, 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 but, so I was very blessed that they weren't that interested in me.
Well, there is something you don't hear every day. Okay. And so now today you're basically a teacher. You're helping to spread the word. What are some of the things you're doing today to help, people who are trying to develop or trying to get into that better place?
Well, I still do gigs. I still sing at big seminars and teach. And I've got something called the Mystical Experience, where it's a membership where we've got people in over 26 different countries. Some of them don't even speak English. And I teach them meditation and how to transmit light and how to, we have these now we've been having, because we haven't been able to get together and travel different countries to meet all the members. We've been having these big virtual events. I have this huge television in front of me. I can see everyone. We do it through this lovely new video camera I got, and it's just so much fun. And to the extent we've gone beyond what we were teaching, and now these people come on, and if anyone's having any challenge or they haven't been able to get work, we've been masterminding and networking and assisting people. And so many podcast people that I've had interviews with have been coming on as well, and they've been finding tons of new guests to interview. It's just been amazing. Like this one lady, she's a plastic surgeon in Albania, and she's like, no one is going anywhere in Albania. And so, we masterminded for her to start doing a video series in English, because her English is very, very, very good. So she can start teaching people how to do Botox or whatever she does, facial peels from home. So she's going to do this whole video series. Another one of our members is a piano teacher, beautiful young lady, actually from Spain but lives in Switzerland. And she said, well, the piano school has just shut down. What do I do? And we said, well, we'll help you create a website. We didn't charge her. Everyone sort of pitched in that could do certain skills. So she could also teach via Zoom piano. And because she speaks 5 languages, she's now teaching 5 different, she's making more money than she's ever made. And everyone's really just there for each other. This one member, she's a waitress, 4 kids, single. We did a GoFundMe. We've made enough money for her to live and pay her rent for 6 months. It's just a really beautiful and joyful thing. And the people that seem to be attracted to the mystical experience are just very, very giving and generous and loving. I think most people are. But if someone's attracted to come and learn meditation and go deeper within themselves to find more purpose, well, it's really fascinating. And some people just come because they like to be around like-minded people. They don't want to go into enlightenment or anything. They're not at that stage where they care about that. But at least they get to be around like-minded people and have these events where they can share themselves or share their business. And then there are others, about 50% of the other members are there because they want to go deep. They really want to awaken. And so it's really, this lockdown has been a very, very joyful thing for me to reinvent myself without being able to travel and do my events as well. So we just love it.
That's one of the themes that we've touched on a lot during this podcast, during the whole pandemic, about how, yes, the public at large see the pandemic and all its negatives, the people who are sick, the people who are dying, and the fear and all that kind of stuff. But we see it in terms of all of the shifts that are happening, all the unexpected gifts that come out of it. You just described a few of them beautifully, how this situation that most people would describe in painful, fearful, maybe even angry terms, we're thinking about it in terms of, wow, look at all this great stuff that's coming out of it. It's a completely different way of looking at things.
Yeah, because, I just think people have got so much compassion and heart. And because we are all one, we all come from the same divine spirit. Really, my higher self is your higher self. It's Alex's higher self. It's Daniel's higher self. It's all one. But when you get to bear witness to people being so giving and loving, it's just, it just takes my breath away.
That's fabulous. Well, it doesn't take your breath away so much that you can't talk about it because you're really good at describing it. So that's a good thing.
A pretty essential step as well, I think.
I think so too. Yes. Without that one, you wouldn't get very far with it. So I hesitate to even ask this because you've described so many things that you like about it. But right now, with what you're doing, and there's a whole list of things that you're doing now, not to mention all the things that you have done over the years, what are you enjoying the most right now? What's really floating your boat the most?
Oh, I love that I can't go out to do these events. I mean, I live in the mountains of California and I have a beautiful home, tons of land, and I just enjoy every morning getting up early, 4:00, and getting everything ready for the bird seed, for the squirrel food, for the rabbit food, for the deer food. And then I just feel like, Snow White going out with the 7 dwarfs and all these birds coming around.
Oh, no.
And then doing all these virtual events and being able to meditate in the silence for so long because it's very, very quiet up here. And then having these virtual events has been so joyous, and just to keep coming up with more and more ideas to, just help people to awaken, to see what we can do. We started having different sort of free Zoom events for the public as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been really, really joyous because normally, people sort of, the people that would normally maybe not come to one of my events, their neighbor or someone's father or sister or brother or their kid's sick, and they come on, and we've had so many healings and amazing things emotionally and physically with these people. So I just guess every moment, just in this timelessness, I just feel like we're in the timelessness. So I feel that people can really learn how to take advantage of the solitude.
The theme that I'm hearing a lot in everything that you're saying there is you have a love for people, and it shows up in all of the stories that you tell, how you were loving your audiences when you were in the bands, you were loving the people who you were interacting with when your career was starting to take off, you're loving the people. There's like a continuous thread there of just loving people. And I love that. Yeah, I mean, I love people too, so I think it's fabulous.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like the agents in the music industry.
Well, some people would say they're not people, but that's another conversation.
I thought that was lawyers.
That too.
Seriously, they're really. I met one once that was okay, but it wasn't very good at his job.
Oh my goodness.
I'm positive about, I mean, I'm not one of those people that, I just love everybody. Because there are some people, human beings are tricky, and you've really got to watch who you talk to and what you say. And if people are just like, oh no, I'll just go out there, it's like, don't, I've got a book called Become a Magnet to Money Through the Sea of Unlimited Consciousness that I wrote with Bob Proctor. And I wrote the complete second half, which is all about the different levels of consciousness that you're at, so that people can sort of really become aware of where they're at. Am I at level 1, 2, 3, 4, and they can tell the difference between, and one of the things I really talk about is you've got to know the difference between depression and a dark night of the soul. A dark night of the soul is a spiritual awakening. Depression is when you're just thinking about yourself. You've got to think about other people, and don't go swimming and try to save people when you've had this epiphany, you're feeling really good. You go out to the ocean and then you drown, they drown. We have to become strong swimmers ourselves in consciousness and in strength to be able to do it. I don't think anyone wants to go to a piano teacher who can't teach piano. So if people are starting to feel like, wow, I can go out now and teach because I've had an epiphany or this or that, make sure you've had the real experience before you go out and teach people, because people are tricky and they could energetically, without you knowing, at an unconscious level, put you down or judge you. And then all of a sudden you'll not be feeling good. You'll be feeling, oh, wow, I'm sensitive to the world. I don't know if I want to be around people anymore. So that's what I suggest to people. Until you're a strong enough swimmer in consciousness, be aware of people. Love them. That doesn't mean you have to necessarily like somebody, because people are tricky. But you love the divine in each person, because that is the truth. And eventually that's all you can see. And eventually you end up just creating into your life the people that you do resonate with, because the people that you don't resonate with, they run away, too much light. And it's the same for negativity. You will attract a negative situation if that's where you're coming from. And the way you can tell if it's you or if it's them is if you feel extremely reactionary. If somebody said something that you feel very hurt, if you're reactionary, that particular thing is still within you. You're judgmental. And if you're not reactionary, you're just sort of bearing witness to what's being said. It's like what's happening to the world. Are you becoming reactionary and afraid, or are you just bearing witness to it and seeing how that can change your consciousness and then other people's consciousness in a positive way that's going to be very supportive?
That's a very interesting little thing you went on there about how people are tricky. That's the way you phrased it. That really, I think what you were talking about is dealing with each individual on the terms and in the way that they are able to deal with you. And not that everybody has to be your friend, or not that everybody has to be somebody that you like, but simply you interact with people to the degree that they can interact with you, and to the degree they can't, then, like you say, they move on. They just don't become part of your circle. And I see that as being a way of describing what happens when you get into and stay in a high vibrational place for a long, long time. It's not anything that you do by plan. It's not anything that you do by intention. Well, it is by intention. It's just not, it's not that you're setting out every day. Okay, I have this intention that these people are going to be there and those people are not. It's not like that. It's just, your intention just it starts flowing so naturally. It just becomes part of your life. And
you realize you're not in fear anymore, and you don't judge. You love. You really don't judge. And you can feel when somebody's judging. And when they're judging, it's only because they don't want to focus on their own life and their own shadows and their own pain. It's easier because when people complain about somebody else and judge somebody else, they get a hit. They get a hit of energy for a short term. Mm-hmm. And it's pseudo energy, though. It's going to go down really quickly. And so people create drama in their life when there isn't drama, because it gives them a boost of energy, and then they continue to do that, and they don't realize before you know it, oh my God, I don't want to be around that person. Why don't they want to be around me? I'm wonderful. No, you're not.
Yep.
Not so much.
All of those conversations can take place in the mind, in the head, that's for sure. But I think probably the strongest thing that happens, and I have a feeling this is part of the experience that you've had, one of the strongest things that happens is when you get to the point where the people who give you responses, or they reach out to you in some way that is not in alignment with what you like, maybe you just dislike them intensely, maybe you just wouldn't be interested in them, whatever, those people actually kind of fade. And by fade, I mean, yeah, you might have a reaction, but the reaction doesn't last very long, and you stop even thinking about them. They stop being a part of your consciousness really, really quickly. And this is a theme that happens over and over again with people I've talked with who have a consistently high vibrational space, because those people that don't really mesh with them, first of all, they don't show up. And when they do show up, they don't show up. If you know what I mean. It's just they just don't hang out very long. They just kind of disappear.
No, it's perfectly said, because if you don't resonate in that vibration, because like we talked about what the Buddha said earlier, and we'll repeat it again because it's so good to remember, we are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. And what you will find also as you get more into, visualization, meditation, doing affirmations, you will find that you start looking at opportunities and things that you never saw before, because the veil is lifting. It's being blown out the window. And even the people that your family, okay, you're always going to be in contact with your family. Most people are. You love your family, even if you're all very, very different soul types. But what I found over the years is my family members that were sort of very, very challenging for me to be around are very loving to me now, even though I don't live in Australia anymore. But when I do go home to visit, it's a very, very different experience. And because I don't get reactionary to anything that anybody says, therefore they're not getting energy from you. They're not getting that burst of, pseudo energy that they normally get through putting you down or whatever, if it's an older sister or whatever, which was my case. And so they can't grab anywhere. They can't get a line to you. They can't find where they can sort of start sucking you dry like a vampire. Right. So they don't do it anymore because they can't. So then it feels like to some people, my God, even my family have changed. No, they haven't. You have.
Right. Exactly. And that's the key. My wife is a former psychotherapist, and the way she describes it is if you change the way you think and the way that you feel and the way you talk and the way you express yourself, and you have a previous history of dealing with people, and in that previous history you behaved in certain ways that are not conducive to this new way of thinking, feeling, whatever, then now your dynamic has changed. And when the dynamic changes, the other person has one of the three possibilities. They can either fight it, they can accept it, or they can run away from it. There's no fourth option there.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're married to a brilliant woman.
I agree completely. She'll agree too.
As millennials, we would say you got to move different.
Yeah. Talk about that, because that's a phrase you actually haven't used on the show before.
Oh, I use it all the time. I always say,
not on the show, you don't.
They move too funny for me. I don't like it.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, you say that. Yeah. All right. I'll give you that one.
that variation of the phrase has definitely been
no doubt
before.
Yeah, you've got to groove. You got to dance your own dance. Yeah, absolutely.
I actually have a question for Michele.
Go ahead.
Whoa.
The singing affirmations. Let's say you're in some place really quiet, like you're by yourself in a hospital. Do you get the same effect if you're singing it in your head?
I don't know, because once you've listened to them a few times, even if you haven't sung them, they're in your head. So yeah, I guess. But I think, but what I have found from asking people, how it's worked for them, everyone's a little different because everyone thinks a little differently. And one lady said, when my doubting mind used to go, oh no, give it up. You're never going to finish the book. She said, then I hear persistence with persistence. And she said, so I'm like, oh my God, that's really in my head. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to write that first chapter. And someone else will say, when they're worried or fearful about money, all of a sudden they're like, what am I talking about? I'm a magnet to money. Money loves me. That's just a song, one of my songs from originally, taken from the inspiration of Reverend Ike, who left the body a few years ago. And I just loved what he used to say. He was I've always loved people that are very, this is why I love living in America, I guess. I love people that are just outrageous and irreverent, totally irreverent, because then I find them very sincere.
That's not a phrase you hear very often, but that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, they are. If they're irreverent, they're not taking themselves seriously. They're not worried about what people think of them. They're not really thinking about their ego. They're just sending out their message in their own way without trying to mollycoddle people, without trying to be too polite. I think that's why I loved Stuart Wilde so much when he was alive. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's a Cockney Sicilian. So wow.
Ooh, boy, there's a combination.
And, he sold millions of books on affirmations and stuff over the years. And I met him when I was touring in Australia. I was touring with him, and I just found him the most irreverent person I'd ever met and just loved him. I love it if someone can say, F this, F that. They're on stage with 3,000 people knocking their head against the podium, and really cursing out loud. And then people would stand up and walk out, maybe 20 or 30 every gig out of 3,000 who'd say, right, now we got rid of all the judgmental assholes. Let's get on with our conversation. Now we can really get on with our conversation.
That's amazing.
My darling.
I love it.
Shake up the deadwood with a little profanity. Why not?
Yes.
There you go. Got to get the right type of crowd.
Yeah.
Michele, you definitely fit in with the vibe of this show. You mentioned earlier our subtitle is Your Daily Dose of Happy. You just gave us a whole bunch of it right there. That was great.
I think think everyone on, I don't listen to the other episodes, but I'm pretty sure everyone on this episode is definitely irreverent, if I have to say so myself.
That's true. The Tuesday and Thursday shows, which are the ones that Alex and Dan do with me, I don't know how to describe it, Michele, other than to say they're the shows that go in places I never dreamed we would go. And I usually don't know what the topic is going to be when we start, and when we're done, I still don't know what the topic is. But it was great
because you've got more defined stuff with the others, like your Monday,
exactly.
Wednesday, Friday. Like
Yeah,
we're going to talk about relationships. We're going to talk about the love of God. We're going to talk about pivoting. We're going to talk about whatever the hell we want to talk about, and we're going to talk about it.
There are times that I finish these episodes and I don't even know what to title the episode. I'll sometimes turn to Alex and say, "What do we call this one? I don't even know what to call this."
You should do what they do on Ridiculous.
I used to be indecisive, and now I'm not sure.
You're right. Exactly. Oh my goodness! But these two keep me laughing.
I don't know what to call this episode. Part 1, 2, 3, 37, whatever.
Yeah, I used to be schizophrenic, and so did I.
Now, Daniel, I don't know if you caught the part where she talked about how she basically got everything going by doing these singing affirmations. And she recorded them and they sold, and she got called on to stage by all these famous names and so forth. But it made me think about the fact that you are our resident crooner, and you kind of do it like ad hoc. But have you ever thought about doing musical affirmations or something similar to that? Because, I mean, you basically have the same approach. You just haven't thought of it that way.
No, nowhere near. Because I crooned. I crooned to add energy, not necessarily to direct and improve people's lives. I'm sorry,
Not
Michele.
to improve people's lives.
I'm sorry for sullying the beautiful work that you do with my crooning. I'm like, well, Walt, you're wearing an orange shirt. Yeah, that's what I do. Not, yeah, Walt, you're a radiant beam of light. I love seeing you in the stars. Be uplifted. That's a very different.
See, now this has brought up a really good thing, because if somebody likes, Harry Connick Jr., I love him. Who doesn't love his voice?
Oh, me too.
Or Frank Sinatra or someone, you can just change the lyrics. Mm-hmm. If you can still sing along the same melody, you can just get karaoke backing track and create your own affirmation music. I mean, I think the most powerful affirmation song I've ever heard is "I Feel Good." No, 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 no. Get up, get down, I feel good, and I knew that I would. Oh,
that's right.
We love you. We love you.
Mm-hmm. That was one of the most brilliant lyrics ever written, I have to say. That was just...
You cannot. I mean, the 70s disco and the music is get down, get up. I mean, it's like Casey and the Sunshine Band. You can listen to any of that music and immediately be happy. I mean, disco music is just the happiest music because it is no deep and meaningful to it. It's just fun, and it's all usually in a major key. So it doesn't necessarily have to be affirmation music. We're just talking about my music for a specific, if you want the effect to be healing, making more money, being able to be more persistent to strengthen the weaknesses within you. But if you just want to get happy real quick, just put on KC. Bit of James Brown, showing my abs, but I don't care.
I'm with you. I mean, I have my own positive music list, I call it, that I play whenever I'm out on, one of my nature walks or whatever. And it's one of my favorite ways. It's actually probably my favorite way of getting myself into a better feeling place when I'm not feeling as good as I want to feel. I mean, music is powerful.
With his, happy song. I mean, Justin Timberlake, I call him, Saint Justin Timberlake. After he wrote that beautiful song, it's like, can't stop the feeling. Yes, can't stop the feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes at our events, I'll just put that on like twice in a row and have everyone just get up and get down.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Music is powerful, no doubt about it. You tapped into a great thing there. Did you know that you were doing that? I mean, you knew that you were doing it for yourself in that it was working for you, but did you really realize what you were tapping into when you started doing that on a big basis?
No way in the world. I just thought this is helping different areas of my life and my rock band to really get that international contract, I'll attract it now. I know how I can do these. I didn't know I'd end up leaving Australia, leaving my band, which the wives of the band members were very pissed off about. What about the money? Get your own bloody band. Get your own singer. Anyway.
Sounds like a reactionary moment to me.
Yeah. But anyway, but I did give them 6 months so that they had an opportunity. And none of them went back to music except for the guitarist. He's born again Christian, Matt, and he went on to have a really, really successful Christian rock band.
Oh, wow.
So none of them, I can't believe it, because they're such amazing musicians. They left the music industry.
Yeah,
Wow.
well, that happens. That's definitely
Looks like you
part
were
of
the
it.
glue that kept their gang together.
Yeah, I would say. Yeah, well, I mean, that's pretty obvious. It's evident just from what your career turned out to that there was a lot of glue going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to love that. You know, you'd have a rehearsal at 5, so you'd have to tell them to be there at 4, just so that they'd be there by 5.
That's a classic musician story right there.
I mean, you know. It's
Musicians
like,
have no idea how to tell time. They're just absolutely none whatsoever. No.
What do you call a drummer who doesn't have a girlfriend? Homeless.
Drummer.
Oh, snap.
Yes.
Oh, wow. My nephew's a very avid drummer.
Is he also a hobosexual?
A hobosexual. He's
Yes.
13.
I said what I said.
He's 13.
Oh, okay.
I hope he's not any kind of sexual.
See, this is the kind of thing that happens, Michelle, all the time. I mean, we say stuff that could clearly get us in trouble with the wrong audience. Fortunately, we have the right audience, but I mean,
He says, "You're the right audience, right? You're the right audience."
you are the right audience, aren't you? Yes.
He's
You
affirming
are
They
the
are
audience.
now, 'cause we
This
were
is the
about
audience that
2
we're
years
looking for. Yeah, now we shake it. Now we shake it out the wankers.
This is basically how these two do what Stuart did. They basically got rid of the ones that we didn't want to be part of the audience really quickly, and the rest that remained were the audience that we wanted. And it worked
Right.
beautifully.
Bye,
Well, the
Felicia.
audience that are staying, I do have a lot of free gifts for your audience, for your fans, whatever you choose to call
They
those
would
up.
love that, I'm sure. Tell us what you have for them.
We have
Well,
them too.
I've got The Magic of Affirmation Power, a book that my very first book that I wrote, but I've rewritten this year
Wow.
and put in a little bit more detail. And in the book, there is the Magnetic Creative Visualization audio program. There is the Practice of Meditation video. There is a month free membership with the Mystical Experience. There is Turbocharged Goal Setting and Action Planner and audio with me and Bob Proctor. My favorite and most powerful affirmation songs, and all of that, nearly it's over $250 worth. And they're, best-selling products. And so that's all being given away.
Fabulous. Whoa.
They just go to Michele, but with one L, not two, Michele, Blood, like my father, it's a real name, BLOOD, micheleblood.com/your daily dose.
So all you have to do is visit that particular link. Okay. I'll make sure I include the link in the description. That way they can all find it very easily.
Yeah, so that way I've just chosen an array of products that I find if someone wants to go really deep, they can. If they just want to improve their life and feel happier or healthier, there are certain products in there that will assist them. For those who are really new to it, I think The Magic of Affirmation Power, the book explains my story and how people can start with just, if they've got no idea what to do, it'll tell them exactly step by step how to do it. Very, very simple. I always say KISS, keep it simple and spiritual.
Oh, there's a different variation on KISS.
Oh, yeah,
I like
that's
that one.
different.
Yeah.
There's
I like
cubits there.
Yeah.
Keep it simple and spiritual. That's good. I like that. Very good.
Make it a t-shirt.
Now, our listening audience is actually, for the most part, pretty advanced when it comes to law of attraction, energy, spirituality, and so forth. So for that particular audience, for those members who do want to explore more, obviously we're going to send them to the link on your website. But what specifically might you suggest that they look at for somebody who's a little bit more spiritually advanced than others might be?
I think the audio book by Bob Proctor and myself, Become a Magnet to Money Through the Sea of Unlimited Consciousness, because it's got a lot of good practical stuff in it. But through the Sea of Unlimited Consciousness, we go deeply from all the different levels of consciousness right through to enlightenment, Kundalini awakening, what really happens, what the effect of it is on you, how I went through my Kundalini awakening, how it just shook my whole world up. The dangers of not understanding how this works, because it's a very powerful energy to have an awakening, and also to get people off their ego, people that think they're highly spiritual. If they're not irreverent, I don't believe them. Because if they're taking themselves too seriously or their spirituality, I've had people say, oh, I'm at level 4. And I said, you're not even at level 1, honey. What are you bloody well talking about? They just think they are, and it's their ego talking to them. And that is true mindfulness, is being aware of our weaknesses and our shadows and finding a way to release it from our life, because people, they don't like criticism. No one likes criticism because, people are assholes and they'll say nasty things to you. You want to say you're going to do something and they're, oh, I don't think you can do it, particularly family members. However, people aren't aware of their own shadow. They would rather, excuse the pun, but they would rather mask their own feelings of inadequacy instead of strengthening their weaknesses. And more people, are wanting to do whatever it takes. So they'll, it's like I'm writing this book at the moment called A to Z of Mysticism. And I start out with A, spiritual assholes, beware of them. Those people that say, oh, why are you sick? You've created it. You've attracted it. Oh, you've got sore shoulders because, blah, 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 blah. If someone's on their deathbed and they're like, oh, you should be ready to forgive yourself for the things in your life. And they're just assholes. Saying it again because I don't say it. I say it in a way that sounds very sweet, I feel.
Okay.
Oh, no.
I'm loving it. That's funny. Hey, actually, you did bring up one thing, and I know we only have a couple minutes left, but I figure I'll try to touch on it anyway. Something that we haven't really discussed on this podcast in about 1.5 to 2 years, a Kundalini awakening. And the people who I've talked to who've had that kind of experience tell a variety of different stories. How did it affect you when you went through that? Did you come through it feeling great? Did you come through it feeling horrified? Did you come through it feeling scared? I mean, what was your experience?
Well, I had an awakened teacher. I went to 26 countries to find an enlightened teacher. I'd worked with all these great positive people that were really, really sharing from their own experience. Deepak, Bob, all these different people, but they didn't know God. And I'd got to that stage where I was feeling soul sick. My life had to find more purpose. People on the outside, it looked like I had purpose. I was making lots of money. It looked like I was assisting a lot of people. I'd even started doing, kids affirmation songs, beautiful albums, but it was still something was missing. I eventually came to America, and out of all the places I found, I was looking for a bald Chinese man, Thai Chinese, I don't know, or an Indian man with long white beard. I never thought of enlightenment as something that can happen to anyone. And I met this woman who had an enlightened teacher, and you've got to have someone who can transmit light because they are plugged into that consciousness, and you really feel the energy from it. You feel it's amazing. They don't act saintly at all. Truly enlightened people never act saintly. They have awakened, so they don't come from ego anymore. They come from that. But it took years. And my Kundalini so many people think they've awakened because they have a Kundalini rush and their head sort of explodes in light, but that's not it. That has to happen hundreds and hundreds of times over the years. And then eventually you go through Stargate experiences. Your body shakes all night with the Shakti as it's transmitting light through to you. I mean, it's not easy. Anyone who says it's easy are trying to sell you something. It is very, very challenging to go through a Kundalini awakening. I was very blessed that I had an awakened teacher who's not teaching now, but she's still alive. She's younger than me, actually. And it was after the full awakening, it took me about 2 years to be able to really handle being around people because you're so sensitive. And one of the most challenging things is you just want to, because you feel this oneness with everyone and everything and so much love, it's ridiculous. And you have to hold yourself back from seeing someone that you don't even know and rushing to them and giving them a hug because you feel they need that love. It just, otherwise it's just, you just painfully got to hold yourself back because people think they've experienced love. There's nothing like it. It is insane. So, but, I could come on again and go through the actual entire experience and what people really go through, because some people think they've had a Kundalini awakening when they haven't. They've had a beginning, and they're the ones that have to be very, very, very careful because it is a dangerous thing. You have to have these two nerves down the spine, the Ida and the Pingala, in total harmony. You have to learn Kriya Yoga breathing so you can have those nerves balanced and in harmony so that the light that comes up the Sushumna through the, that canal, that tube that runs the ethereal, along the ethereal body, along the spine, so that can be cleared. Because Kundalini is like tiny little bubbles of energy. It's like putting Ajax on your consciousness. It's scrubbing you clean so that the Sushumna can become clean and then activate your chakras. You go to these people and they say, oh yeah, your energy is like so totally blocked. I think you're like your chakras are blocked, like so totally. And they don't know what they're talking about. Everyone's chakra is closed. They've got to become activated. And that's the only way that they can become activated is for that Kundalini, which is a scrub. It's like Ajax for, from God to do that. And when you have a teacher transmit light to you, you start feeling all the tingles on the top of your brain, and that is attracting the Kundalini to come. And when you do your own work on top of it, be of service to others, be happy when you don't feel like it. Instead of complaining, be nice when it's hard work. It's like a friend of mine said it the other day. This really giving, generous person said, no, I'm not being generous or giving. I'm being selfish. And we all said, what are you talking about? He said, it's hard work to stay negative and to just sit around and not exercise and just watch television. That's hard work. I think it's selfish when you're out there and you really get out there and you do things, because when you do things for others, you do other things to uplift people and you meditate. He said all of those things uplift you. So it's quite a selfish thing to be awakened. You have to be selfish to get out there and do it. Otherwise, you're just in inertia and laziness and you can't feel yourself anymore. So I just thought that was a really cool way of looking at it. But anyway.
I asked the question because every time I've ever talked to somebody who at least told me they'd been through it, I don't know, I've never explored it myself, so I wouldn't really know. But they've either told me that they've been through a Kundalini awakening or they knew people who had or whatever. The stories, they all have a common thread, but the stories were so very different. And yours was also very, very different. I may actually take you up on that and have you back some time to talk about it in more detail. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that because it probably depends on whether or not I want to have one myself. And so far the answer has been no, but you never really know what's going to happen.
Yeah, but see, you're such a positive, happy person. It wouldn't be that difficult for you to maybe not go through enlightenment. Maybe you don't want to go that deep, but to go into higher states of consciousness. People used to have LSD for the things that I do with no drinking and no drugs or anything. I mean, there's nothing like it. It is beyond any orgasm you'll ever have. And it's as Americans, it's pretty dark.
Alex is losing it over there.
What? Sorry?
Alex is losing it.
Oh, sorry, I have the mind of a 12-year-old. Leave me alone. That has me intrigued now, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's funny. This one of the mystical experience members is from Ireland, and he's been a student of mine for about 8 years, and he's going through his Kundalini awakening, and we're at this public Zoom event, and he can't. I don't ever want to tell anyone don't say this or don't say that. I want people to be able to just speak their own minds on our public events as well that we've been doing. And someone said to him, well, how does it feel? And he said, oh, it's beyond an orgasm. It's better than any sex you'll ever have. I can't believe what I feel every night shaking in my bed, orgasm after orgasm up my spine. And everyone's just like, and so I said, oh, you mean to be sure, two condoms.
Oh, my goodness.
He totally couldn't stop himself, and he wasn't meaning it in a sexual way. It was just to try and explain it. so funny. We were all cracking up.
Well, we always try to end the show on a high note. I think you managed to pull that off, so thank you very much, Michele.
Well, I have had so much fun with you guys. You guys are awesome. I really, really, really love you guys. It's very rare that you get to be so, yourself. You don't have to hold back.
It's important, though, isn't it? I mean, you really. We emphasize that every show that we want to be just who we are, and it pays off. I mean, it pays off in ways that we don't even necessarily recognize. But who would want to live any other way? That's the question I would ask.
COVID are really contagious.
And when you have an opportunity that you don't have to be aware because people are being tricky, and you can just be yourself and laugh and be in that joy. I mean, laughter is meditation. So that means that, Walt, you do meditate a lot because you laugh.
We do a lot of meditating on this show.
You sure do.
No doubt about it.
You can't think when you're laughing. Laughing is a meditation because the whole idea of meditation is to stop your thought.
That's true. Yeah. Hadn't thought of it that way, but you're right. So anyway, thank you very much, Michele Blood, for coming on to the show. And we're going to make sure that we include the link that you gave us, micheleblood.com/your daily dose, so that people can get all the free gifts that you gave. But I think the best gift you gave was your story. What a wonderful story. Thank you so much for sharing it.
Thank you. Thank you, you guys. You guys, as I say, you guys rock.
Well, thank you. All right. And with that, we're going to rock out.
All righty. Thank you so much.
So thank you very much to our podcast listeners. Thank you very much to our live streamers. And thank you, Alex and Daniel, because you guys helped make it really, really happen. Thank you especially to you, Michele Blood, for dropping in. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.